Hey folks, this is Adam Steer from bodyweightcoach.com, and I'm here with my good buddy Shaun Hadsall. Shaun's probably one of my best friends in the fitness industry, and he's also a guy who's got a really inspiring story, and he's one of the guys who is probably best at getting results for people who want to lose weight in a really kind of no-nonsense, no fluff manner. So thanks for being on the call, Shaun.
Thanks for having me on, Adam.
Cool, man. We're gonna make this really quick because I want you guys to hear Shaun's story, but I also just want to get a couple of his golden nugget fat loss tips for you. So, why don't you first start out, Shaun, by telling us how you got into fitness in the first place?
Got out of high school and was bored without sports, so I jumped right into weightlifting as a way to fill up the time. And actually trained really hard, consistently 6-7 days a week for about 8 years straight.
Wow.
But I could never really get rid of my body fat, my belly fat. I was always at around 18 to 22% body fat, which isn't fat or overweight, but it's definitely not the desirable look we're all looking for. You know, obviously 10% or going south of 10% is where you're going to see your abs. And I always wanted to see my abs. So after 8 years of being frustrated, always thinking more was better, I actually was overtraining a lot. Sometimes up to 2 hours a gym, because I just thought, hey, if I'm not getting results, I need to train harder and do more. Well, obviously I was overtraining.
Right.
So I came across Body for Life by Bill Phillips and actually started learning about high intensity interval training in shorter, more intense workouts. And obviously got a little more educated on the nutrition side. And I took my body fat from that 20% level all the way down to about 5%, and was fortunate enough to place first runner-up grand champion in the Body for Life contest in 1998. And the catalyst really for that change was my daughter. I was a single dad, just wanting visitation rights to my daughter, and I saw fitness as the anchor to being the example I needed to be for my daughter. And so that's kind of the long story made short. And then I jumped into the fitness industry after that contest because I had such a deep passion for helping others. I wanted others to get the gift that I received from learning the truth about how to get lean and how to live it as a lifestyle. It's one thing to get lean, it's another thing to stay lean. Right. And so that's where my specialty comes in, is I teach people how to adhere to a program long term. Yeah. So I jumped in as a personal trainer into the industry, opened up a couple personal training studios, and I quickly discovered that my reach there was only about 400 or 500 people max locally with a private personal training studio. Yep. And so I put those studios up for sale because I wanted to reach more people, and that's what led me to the internet. I knew I could reach literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the internet where I could only reach a couple hundred locally. So we sold those studios and kind of went through a financial hardship for several years. The doctors who bought my studio never paid me for them, so we had to sue them, and I ended up getting about half the amount I was supposed to get. And so long story made short, by the time it was all said and done, I was practically living out of my car and almost divorced. But we turned it all around when I met guys like you who were able to introduce me to their audiences, and that's how my products and services started spreading.
All right, cool. Thanks for your story, Shaun. And I want to go back to something you said, that you're really good at helping people maintain the state of leanness that they can get to, because like you said, it's easy to get to that state, it's hard to stay there. And I just want to tell everybody, I see Shaun probably, I don't know, we see each other maybe like 5-6 times a year. Every time I see Shaun, he's got a six-pack. So it's not something that Shaun diets down, goes crazy for 6 weeks, gets in photo shoot shape, and then loses it. He's like that year round. So he really does walk the talk, and that's the kind of results that he gets people. So why don't, just real quick to give people kind of a takeaway lesson for leanness and leanness for life. What can you tell people about working out or eating that's going to help them achieve that same kind of stable leanness that you get?
Well, the first thing is that it's very easy to lose the first 10, 20, even 30 pounds if you're 50 pounds overweight. I could give you 1,000 different ways to skin the fat loss cat. And as long as you can adhere to it, you could lose the weight, whether it's intermittent fasting or 6 meals a day. There is 1,000 ways to skin the fat loss cat. But when you get to the point where you have 5, 10, 15, even 20 pounds left, and that is it, the fat loss game becomes a lot more difficult. And that's what we term stubborn fat. And that's what my specialty is teaching people how to get rid of stubborn fat. My advice to anybody is the best fat loss program that you could follow, diet or exercise, is simply one that you could adhere to long term. But my personal preference, personally, is to make sure that I fast for 12 to 16 hours, 4 or 5 days of the week. That's the range where you can put your body into a fasted state, which is more of a fat burning environment, because insulin levels are super low, and in the presence of low insulin, that's when our body can oxidize and burn off fat. Growth hormone is elevated, and so what ends up happening is it creates the perfect storm for fat burning. And I like to break my fast with actually a high intensity workout. So I'll preface this by saying this isn't for everybody. But in general, I think females can find that a 12 to 14 hour window can work very well for them. With hormones, I don't recommend they go much longer than that. My wife, that does 12 to 14 hours a day, and she's 55 years old and stays in great shape year round. The other thing is guys should extend it to 14 to 16 hours to make the fat burning state a little bit longer. So you're literally in an 8 to 12 hour feeding period and then in an 8 to 12 hour fasting period. But here's where the magic happens. After the fast, if you break that fast with a high intensity workout, now you have the perfect fat burning storm inside your body, because you've just fasted for 12 to 16 hours. So your body's in a perfect environment where it can liberate and release the stubborn fat that's so hard to get rid of. And what happens with stubborn fat is it lacks blood flow. So if you feel like a stubborn pocket of fat, especially on females in the hip or butt range or in the belly area for a guy, typically that fat's going to feel cooler because it lacks blood flow. So by fasting and then breaking that fast with a high intensity workout, what'll happen now is your body will release the fight or flight hormones called catecholamines that will actually create blood flow to those stubborn fat pockets and actually release it into the bloodstream so that it can be burned off. In typical exercise in a fed state, although it can be effective and you can definitely get great results eating before exercise, it's going to be awful difficult to get rid of stubborn fat.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're totally on the same page with that. As you know, I do a lot of intermittent fasting, and I really like that you are a proponent of high intensity exercise before breaking the fast, rather than the traditional kind of bodybuilder recommendation of the low intensity aerobic exercise before breaking the fast. And I just think that's so much more effective at burning the fat, especially that stubborn fat.
Yeah, the low intensity exercise, I mean, there's no doubt, we can't deny that it does work. Bodybuilders have used it for centuries to get lean on stage. But number one, it's very time consuming. Number two, it's very easy to hit a plateau. And number three, you'll never release the hormones that can get rid of stubborn fat.
Exactly. Well, that's awesome, man. It's great advice for people to take home and go away with. So I just want to thank you for your time, and I want to tell folks, get inspired by Shaun's story and use his advice, and you will get lean faster, and you will keep it off, because that's a lifestyle you can maintain forever. It's not really hard to do a short fast like that and then break it with some quick high intensity exercise. It's something you can stick to for life.
Yeah, and I always tell people, I mean, my famous quote is, the number one diet pill you can take is consistency. There's no such thing as perfection when it comes to, diet and exercise. I'm going to eat bad, you're going to eat bad. I'm going to skip an exercise session, you're going to skip an exercise session. But the key is just being consistent, not perfect. When you fall off track, like we all do, we're all human, just get back on the train the next day and go hard. I mean, you still have every right in the world to enjoy yourself and indulge in food you love. You just have to consistently eat healthy and consistently exercise, and that's how I'm able to maintain under 10% body fat year round.
Absolutely.
Just maintaining that attitude.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for the awesome advice, Shaun, and talk to you again soon.
My pleasure, Adam. Thank you.